So chapter approved brings us some interesting new changes to the Thousand Sons. We may not have the rules for their new codex, but we have all the points costs. Hello and welcome back to Auspex Tactics, the strategy focused 40k channel, where we've been going through the points cost updates from the new chapter approved, and today I thought we'd talk about the Thousand Sons. As we know, the other week, Games Workshop announced that there was a new Thousand Sons and Grey Knights codex in the work. Apparently we have Orcs and Sisters next on the list, and then Grey Knights and Thousand Sons coming out after, alongside another big new Versus box, which will supposedly feature Castell and Crow of the Grey Knights, and a new HQ for the Thousand Sons called an Infernal Master. Just judging by the previous releases in 9th edition, we kind of know what to expect. I think that the Thousand Sons are basically going to follow the pattern of the Death Guard. They'll get 2 wounds Rubik Marines and 3 wounds Scarab Occult Terminators, plenty of nice datasheet and ability buffs, maybe their special rules for the entire army altering, and most likely that Hateful Assault special rule being rolled into their core datasheet rather than being an additional special rule layered on top. It's also pretty certain that there'd be a whole army buff for the Thousand Sons, something like what we see from Drukari's Power from Pain, Admech's Canticles, or the Death Guard's Contagion of Nurgle. From the same article as they announced these codexes, they did mention that they basically had included the new points cost from the codex in chapter approved, and they issued some digital interim points costs just to tide you over until then. The only thing that changed from that was a small points decrease on the Land Raider. However, there's loads of interesting stuff for the Thousand Sons within the new chapter approved leaks. A whole load of things have gone up and down in value, there's some new war gear options and squad sizes, and plenty more besides. With that in mind, let's go through the entire codex section by section and see what appears to have changed. So to start out, here we have the HQ and Troops choices. I certainly argue the most important slots in the Thousand Sons arsenal. Ahriman's going up a little bit, 160 points up from 150, his disc is still 20. The Exalted Sorcerer remains 100, though his Disc of Tzeentch has gone up 5 points to a 25-point upgrade. Obviously we can't say whether they're going to be better or worse. I'm sure they'll get some hefty stat line and datasheet buffs, and maybe some more powerful psychic powers as well. One interesting note on the Exalted Sorcerer's points costs is that he can take something called a Prosperine Kopesh. I had to look up what a Kopesh was, but apparently it's one of those ancient Egyptian curvy style swords. Previously he could take a power sword before, so maybe that's instead of that, and hopefully it'll come with some more interesting stats. The new unit is of course the Infernal Master. He is 90 points, and as yet we don't know his model or have any idea as to his battlefield role. I'm guessing he's still going to be a sorcerer of some kind, seeing as the Thousand Sons that didn't become sorcerers have turned to dust, but I guess maybe some sort of heavy automata could be interesting as well. Maybe could be a sorcerer with a bit more of an emphasis on fighting in melee maybe. The Sorcerer's unchanged at 90 points, nothing new there, and the Terminator Sorcerer is still the same at 105. It appears that either he's lost the option for a familiar or it's now free, and he no longer gets charged for taking a power sword either, which I guess is a nice extra. He's also no longer charged for an Inferno Combi Bolter, though he can upgrade to an Inferno Combi Melter for an additional 5 points. Finally, for the HQ slots, the Demon Prince of Tzeentch has been renamed to the Thousand Sons Demon Prince. He's now 140 points, which is down 10 from 150, and Malefic Talons appear free for him. They are likely to be nerfed as they were in the Death Guard Codex though, going down to AP-1. Moving into the Troops section, and Rubik Marines are up to 21 points, 3 points up from 18. I strongly suspect that that's likely due to the extra wound that they get, and it keeps them on par with Plague Marines. Again, much like Plague Marines and probably the rest of the Chaos Codex, the squad size is going to 5 to 10 models now, so you can't have enormous squads of 20 anymore. Otherwise, there are a couple of minor changes to their war gear. Warp Flamers are down to 6 points from 8, and I'm guessing that the Icon of Flame has been buffed a little bit. It's up to 10 points from 5. As with Cultists and all the other Chaos Dexes, they are down to 5 points now. If they follow the Death Guard pattern, they won't have OBSEC and they won't be core, but still could be a very cheap little unit for doing actions, I guess. Possibly the biggest good news for the troop section though are the Zangors, which are down to 7 points from 9, which even if they just keep the exact same stat line as they had now, which they might get buffed, that would make them a far more hardy battle line unit, something that the Thousand Sons have been really lacking, as they kind of need a blunt instrument to actually go in and deal the damage after they've hit the enemy with all their tricks. Moving on to the elites and fast attack of the Codex, the Hellbrute is 115 points, up 5 points from 110, probably due to the Hellbrute gaining the extra -1 damage that all the other Dreadnoughts have got. As with a lot of other Combi Bolters in the decks, they've now been renamed Inferno Combi Bolters, so that's likely to be a small boost to the shooting there, getting a bit of AP-2 on the go. The Scarab Occult Terminators in their default loadout are up to 40 points, they're up just 2 points from 38, and that's really quite significant as they're going to be gaining a whole extra wound, so that's a really big buff for them. In addition, their gears are all dropped in cost as well. The Heavy Warp Flamers now plus 5 points, the Hellfire Missiles at 10, and that Soul Reaper Cannon is only 5. Finally, the Zangor Shaman is 70 points now, down 15 points from the 85 that he was before. Potentially quite a cheap little buffing character if he does retain his current rules. For the fast attack, there's only the 2 choices for Thousand Sons. Chaos Spawn remain 23 points, and it's pretty much guaranteed that they'll be getting the same hefty buffs as the Death Guard ones got, their attacks going up to 2d3, and those hideous mutations at AP-2 damage 2. Potentially pretty good for a cheap chaff unit that can actually hit fairly hard. Otherwise, the Zangor Enlightened remain at 18 points, though they have received a small buff in that their Fatecaster Greatbow is now a free upgrade, so they're 18 points irrespective of whether or not you take that. Finally, for the datasheets, before we get into their upgrades, the heavy support section has actually seen a surprising amount of changes. Land Raiders are down 20 points, and like all the other tanks in this section, anything that was a combi weapon now becomes an Inferno combi weapon, so she'll be hitting just that little bit harder. Predators are 130 or 140 points, and their datasheets have been split up into Annihilator and Destructors. The Vindicator is unchanged at 130, though now it has the same Siege Shield option as the Loyalists. Basically, you do have to pay an extra 10 points for the Siege Shield now, but it's kind of worth it as it gets the save against range attacks to be a big 2+. The Defilers following the Death Guard pattern, up to 165 points from 135, and will gain the Ballistic Skill and Weapon Skill 3+, and all the other changes that went along with it. Forge Fiends and Mauler Fiends I'm sure will be getting the exact same treatment, hitting on 3s now. The Forge Fiend's gone up to 140 points, up from 125 if armed with Ectoplasm Cannons, and it's a little bit more expensive if you're taking the Twin Hades Auto Cannons. Certainly should be a bit more accurate and a bit less negated by modifiers if the opponent has any -1 to hit. The Mauler Fiend remains at 140 points, definitely not bad if it is indeed getting the 3+ to hit. Though now if you want Lasher Tendrils you have to pay a slight premium, they're 10 points more than the Cutters. Maybe there might be some stat line changes going on there. Finally, the Mutalith Vortex Beast goes up to 145 points, up 10 from 135. Probably going to be hitting on 3s again, I suspect, but in general I just hope they've given the rules for that thing a bit of a workaround. It's kind of a bit underwhelming at the moment. Finally, moving on from the heavy support, Magnus is down to 450 points, down 15 from 465. I'm just going to put it out there that I think he's going to see some similar stat increases to Mortarion. If Mortarion gets 3 different Warlord traits active all at once, I see no reason why Magnus wouldn't as well. And Mortarion also started hitting considerably harder in the new decks, there's no reason to think that Magnus might not as well. The Chaos Rhinos up to 80 points, up from 75. Again, it's a bit of a buff really as it gains the Inferno combi weapons. And the Helldrake also sees a slight points increase, going up to 165, up 15 from 150. Hopefully again that will go hand in hand with some stat line improvements. On the plus side though, the Hades autocannons now cost no extra over the Bale Flamer. Finally, last but not least, we have this Legion Command table, this one being the points cost character upgrades that have been common through quite a lot of previous codexes. I'm going to guess that this is going to mark out your sorcerers as different sort of characters within the Thousand Sons Legion. You can make them into a protege, a loyal thrall, or a battle psyker for example, all paying the points cost on the list. Certainly from the sound of them, a couple of the upgrades really sound like they're going to improve the psychic powers. It's hard to imagine how being a battle psyker or a witch warrior isn't going to make you throw mind bullets a bit more effectively. Some of the options for previous codexes have been very strong indeed, and if these are another way to layer buffs and amp up the Thousand Sons psychic phase, that could be a very good thing. And that brings us to the end of these Thousand Sons points leaks. Obviously not too much to go on at the moment. Without knowing all the stat lines and abilities, it's completely impossible to say whether anything is going to be particularly good or bad. Still, it's quite interesting to see the changes, and gives us a bit of a taste of what Tzeentch has in store. If you've enjoyed the video and you'd like to see more like it, feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics. As with all the rest of the 40k codexes, I'll certainly be covering the Thousand Sons one once it's out, and we'll do a full overview of that and any new models as soon as I get a chance. Feel free to subscribe if you'd like to see that, or just check back later for more 40k videos. Finally, I'd just like to mention one way that you can help support the channel if you have been enjoying these videos a lot and would like to help keep them coming. Down in the video description I do have an Element Games affiliate link. They're a discount retailer in the UK and they give 10 to 20% off Games Workshop's models. If you order anything through them after clicking on the link, a small amount goes to help support Auspex Tactics, without costing you any more whatsoever when you buy. Can just be a way to help out if you were thinking about ordering in some models anyway. For people over in the USA and Canada, I do also have an Amazon affiliate link as well. That one works in just the same way. Literally order anything through Amazon whatsoever after clicking the link, and a small amount goes to help support the channel without costing you more. If you are ordering in some stuff, again, could be something to consider. In any case, an absolutely massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.